Okay, how is everybody doing this evening? Can you hear me tonight? Actually, I might have to. Hey, nice seeing you, Sunflower. I'm noticing a little bit of a delay. Give me 1 second, everyone. I think it's my background. Can everybody hear me okay? Hear me okay? Okay, we're going to give it just a little bit so people can hop on. Okay, good. So everybody can hear me. Okay, let's go over a few things. We'll just give it a few more moments. I'm going to look up some things about the case. 1 second. Glad everyone could join. Just give me 1 second here. Oh, hey, thank you. Okay, great. 1 second. Okay. So tonight I want to go over, I really want to walk through, so we have Ron Logan, right? We have Keegan Kline, catfishing, and then we have this Dropbox that a lot of you have emailed me about. So we really want to take a deep dive into this Dropbox. Let me try to find the data that I was actually going to look to pull up. Just give me 1 second. We're going to give it another minute, make sure everybody hops on. Okay, so, the one thing I'm pretty curious about is the all points bulletin of the younger male that they populated. So I wish I could share my screen. So on Monday, we'll be able to share my screen because we'll be in the studio. So it'll be a lot better. But the one thing I really want to take a deep dive in is the all points bulletin photo of the younger sketch. I find that a little bit eerie and strange. And, if you relate that sketch to Keegan Kline a little bit, or even Westfall, Logan, Brad Holter's son even. Hey, Reby. Let me just say hi to everybody. Okay, great. So let's go through this really quick. Hope everyone had a good New Year's. Let's see here. Keegan Kline transcript. So I want to go over the Keegan Kline thing first. And I want to take a little bit of a deep dive into that, because he played that catfishing character. And to me, I never really understood all the working parts around Keegan Kline. And again, it's just another layer on why Richard Allen is completely innocent. I mean, here's another guy. So we're going to go over, okay, so we have interviews on these order. There was the Anna Spath, Evan Fritz, Mackenzie Sandusky, Maya Abbott, Nicholas Zopp, Riley Voorhees, Paige and Tiffany. We had Betsy Blair. We had Sarah Carbaugh. We had Betsy Blair on 4/2/2019. We had on June 7th, 2017, Sarah Carbaugh. Then we had Keegan Kline at GAFB on that's August 16th. We had Hope DeMello. We had another August 27th, Brianne Wilbur at the U.S. Marshal's Office. We had a 10/3/2022 an AutoZone in Peru interview. We had a 10/13/2022 interview at 9th Street. We had a 10/13/2022 John Henderson interview. We had a Joyce Walker interview on October 13th. We had Kathy Allen, Rising Vet, on October 13, 2022. We had Kathy Allen again on 2022 of October. So we have just reading on some of this thumb drive stuff. Just give me a second here. Okay, so we had composite sketches of, it says 1, Carl Abbott, 2, Daniel Pearson, parentheses, David McCain, Rayleigh Voorhees. We had Sarah Carball on the Bridge Guy composite, Teresa Labert. That is very interesting. Okay, hold on. I'm just reading through some of these files here. DNA of Bridge Guy. Okay, so I want to talk and really walk through Keegan Kline. Give me 1 second here, everyone. A little unprepared today. Okay, so here's a document here, just to kind of briefly touch on Keegan Kline. I knew it was wrong. Keegan Kline sentenced to 40 years in child pornography case. In March, Kline pleaded guilty. This is from 2023. Kline pleaded guilty to 25 charges, ranging from child exploitation and possession of child pornography to obstruction of justice. Miami County, Indiana, a judge has sentenced Keegan Kline, the Peru man who admitted to using the catfish social media profile Anthony Schatz and Emily Ann to contact his underage victims. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison. This document's from July 28th of 2023. Kline will also serve 3 years probation as part of his sentence for 25 convictions related to child, I don't even know if I can say this on here, pornography. Judge Timothy Spar handed down the sentence Thursday evening. Kline is not allowed to appeal the conviction since he pleaded guilty to the charges, but he is able to appeal the sentence, which he told the judge he plans to do. It is really important, days like today, being able to provide justice to the victims that Keegan Kline impacted. Miami County Deputy Prosecutor Courtney Elwine said after the sentencing, it's some of the most important work that you could do as a prosecutor, and we are immensely proud. During sentencing, July 27th, State Police Commander Christopher Cecil testified. Cecil did the forensic examinations of the electronic devices seized from the Kline's home in 2017, but he claims he was not asked to analyze them until 2020. Cecil said he did a forensic exam on 7 devices, 5 phones, a tablet, and an iPod. Cecil testified Kline's device had several social media apps and had profiles of Emily Ann, Anthony Schatz. Cecil claims the Emily Ann profile targeted girls 12 to 18 years old. The profile would then direct the girls to Kline's real social media profile and would ask, "Would he have sex with my dad?" The victims of Emily Ann account were from all over the country. Cecil testified Anthony Schatz catfish profile. Okay, let's just map this out. Anthony Schatz, and then we'll go on Google Maps. Anthony Schatz catfish profile was on Instagram and Snapchat. Kline's internet searches include child pornography terms. Cecil claims investigators were able to identify 6 or 7 underage females. Okay, so we have 6 to 7 underage females of Kline's crimes among the more than 100 sexual photos on his device. Okay, so those were on his device. I wonder about the Dropbox. When questioned by the defense, Cecil said there was no evidence Kline ever paid for photos or ever met anyone in person that he messaged online. Okay, wait, so when questioned by the defense, Cecil said there was no evidence Kline ever paid for photos or ever met anyone in person. State Police Detective David Vito testified he began working on the Kline case in 2019. So Vito was working on the Kline case in 2019. He testified Kline admitted to making the Anthony Schatz profile that we've all seen on Instagram and receiving over 100, so I'm going to write this down, 100 photos and 20 videos, that's crazy, of underage girls that were sexually. Vito testified that Kline claimed he never shared images with his father. His father did not have access to his phone, and his father did not know much about social media. Vito testified that while in jail, Kline has been reaching out to random women soliciting sexual conversations. Vito claims Kline even got his mother to provide contact information for women. As the Kline case gained attention, Vito testified women also started reaching out to Kline in jail. That's crazy. Vito said Kline tried to get sexual conversations going with the women and offered to provide information about the case and other cases in exchange for sexual conversations. That is absolutely disgusting and insane. Okay, I'm going to keep going. And again, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Okay, Miami County Probation Officer Kathy Knight testified Kline told her he was angry. No women would contact his real dating profile. Okay, so Miami-Dade County, or no, I'm sorry, Miami-Dade. I'm talking like it's in Miami. Miami County Probation Officer. So Kathy Knight testified that he was really upset, mad that like normal people wouldn't, contact his normal dating profile. So he created a fake one. She said Kline claimed he was addicted to pornography and soliciting images from girls made him feel wanted. Knight said Kline wants a chance to show he can change and that he wants to apologize to his victims. Knight testified Kline was aware of his association with the Delphi murders case, as police claimed the Anthony Shots account was the last to communicate with Libby German. See, that is very strange. Just the timing of all this. There's so many different people that you can kind of place at the scene or knew about these murders or communicated with the girls. It starts getting really fishy. And capitalize on that to get money in jail. Okay, so that makes sense. He's like trying to push the narrative. Knight said Kline claims he is attracted to teenagers, not kids. She recommended a 25-year sentence for him, and she said believes he is a risk to the community and likely to reoffend. Kline read a prepared statement while crying, saying, "I was in a deep state of depression and shut in my house. I wish I would have made choices to get a high school diploma, driver's license." Excuse me, just having some water. "I made a fake profile because of my loneliness." Kline went on to say, "I knew it was wrong. I never left the house. I never had any intention of meeting anyone. I take full responsibility. I apologized to everyone. Sorry to each and every victim." Kline also apologized to the man whose photos he used for the Anthony Shots profile. The prosecution claims an aggravating factor in the sentencing should be Kline's behavior in jail, as he allegedly was soliciting sexual conversations from women. The prosecution said Kline went after 12 to 13-year-old girls who did not have the maturity to protect themselves. That's horrible. It's so disgusting. He does whatever he can to take control of his victims, the prosecutor said. The prosecution asked for Kline to be sentenced to a total of 50 years for the 25 charges. God, that is just so crazy that he was his account was last to communicate with Libby German. Kline's defense recommended 16 years with 5 years suspended. They only want Kline in prison for a maximum of 11. Yeah, right. The defense argued Kline did not create or ask for many of the images he is charged with possessing or disseminating. So background on the charges. Okay, let's look at this. Hey, Criminal Network, what's up? Even if we link KK and AS, according to him, he didn't murder the girls, so he is a link in the chain, but that's about it. Drop boxes. Yep. I definitely understand where you're coming from. And is that? Here's Reeby's comment. Okay, I'm going to keep reading. Background on charges. In March, Kline pleaded guilty to 25 charges ranging from child exploitation and possession of child pornography to obstruction of justice. He was scheduled to be sentenced on May 18th, but Miami County Circuit Court Judge Timothy Spar granted a continuance that day. In requesting the continuance, Kline's defense team claimed he needed time to review evidence Kline said he hasn't seen. The defense then said Kline may want to withdraw his guilty plea based on the evidence. At the end of May, 2 attorneys were announced as representing Kline. After his former attorney filed a motion to no longer represent him, Kline's new attorney informed the court that Kline does not intend to withdraw his guilty plea in his child porn case. It's been more than 3 years since charges were filed against him. Kline previously told the judge he thinks he is bipolar and schizophrenic, but he was able to make the clear decision to plead guilty. The judge walked Kline through each charge to make sure he understood what he was pleading to. After pleading guilty, Kline gave sworn testimony about the offenses he committed. Kline admitted receiving photos of girls under 18 showing their bare beep, along with other graphic photos. Kline admitted having porn images of girls under 12. This is so disgusting. So glad he's locked away. Throw away the key on this guy, regardless of, if he's not involved. Kline admitted using the Catfish social media profile Anthony Schatz and Emily Ann to contact his victims. He also admitted that he obstructed justice by deleting social media from his devices. Kline will also have to register as a violent sex offender when he's released from prison. I mean, it's going to be so long. Background on the case. The child porn and exploitation charges stem from a search of Kline's Peru, Indiana home on February 25th, 2017, just 11 days after the bodies of Liberty German and Abigail Williams were discovered. The FBI, Indiana State Police, and Peru Police Department took part in serving the search warrant, and the investigation was focused on Kline's allegedly soliciting underage girls. According to a probable cause affidavit out of Miami County obtained by 13 News, Kline created the Anthony Schatz account approximately 6 months prior to when investigators interviewed him in 2017. He allegedly said he created the account to contact both girls he knew and girls he did not. Court documents show Kline saying he would talk to girls even though they were under the age of 16, and that he found them on Instagram and then told them to message him on Snapchat. Kline allegedly claimed to have received pictures from all the girls he chatted with and had saved them. According to court documents, investigators talked to Kline shortly after he returned from Las Vegas. Investigators said he told them he was effed and should have left. Kline said he planned to leave the area that day, and after his dad fell asleep, according to court documents and that probable cause affidavit, Kline said he received sexual photos and videos of the girls that he was messaging. Investigators seized 6 devices from Kline, including smartphones, a tablet, an iPod Touch, as part of the 2017 search warrant on the child porn case. The iPod Touch was last used in May 2015 and contained sexually explicit images of children, according to court documents. Location for some of the images came back to Hammond or Royal Center, Indiana. One iPhone, last used in May of 2015, contained sexual images of girls around the age of 14. The geolocation on the images came back to cities in Indiana, including Bunker Hill, Galveston, Indianapolis, Kokomo, Monterey, and Royal Center. Excuse me. A Samsung Galaxy phone, last used in June of 2015, contained sexually explicit images of children between 12 and 17. Another iPhone investigators found contained sexual images of children between 12 and 17. I mean, how many images does this guy have? This guy's absolutely insane. Regardless of the Delphi situation, this guy is a menace to society. Adults involved in sexual acts with children between the ages of 3 and 11. I mean, this is disgusting. And images of drugs, and Kline with a black handgun, even had a gun. That phone was last used in November 2016. I mean, this guy was a twisted individual. The tablet was last used in March of 2016 and showed conversations on Facebook Messenger, and the user suggested conversations be moved to KIK Messenger or Snapchat, according to the probable cause affidavit. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little cotton mouth here. Another Samsung Galaxy phone recovered was factory reset on February 23rd, 2017. A factory reset essentially wipes all user data from a device. Interesting. Wow, on February 23rd. So that was right after the murders. Investigators were able to get information on that device after the reset. It included discussions about meeting people in Las Vegas and prostitution. On February 27th, 2017, Kline contacted police claiming he had located his iPhone 5. Investigators said they found images of females posing nude, but investigators could not determine their ages. Investigators also found much of the data from Facebook, Instagram, Meet Me, whatever that is, Snapchat, and Twitter had been deleted. A review of the phone found that hours after police released him the day they searched his home, February 25th, 2017, he had uninstalled and deleted Snapchat and Instagram. Wow. The following day, Meet Me was uninstalled and deleted. I don't know what Meet Me is. It might be like a dating app or just like I don't know. The browser search history had also been deleted the morning of February 27th before the phone was turned in to authorities. Oh, this guy's like a lunatic. Yep, he's right where he needs to be in prison. Okay, let's see. Let's take a break just to read some comments here. I've been watching this case from the beginning. I really don't know what to think on all of it. I don't think Richard Allen was involved. Exactly. Thank you, Jack. Dirty Deanna. And I'm still wondering if Logan knew Tony Kline. Right. Let's see. Dorian Gray. He may not personally done it, but was involved online with Libby is too much of a coincidence. Exactly. Like, for me, it's such a coincidence that, it has my wheels spinning. He may not have been involved at all, but it's just, it's such a coincidence. Putting him, like, talking to Libby, and then that all points bulletin of that younger man, it could be Brad Holder's son. It could be somebody else, but it's weird to see that young sketch. And then the sketch that looks like Ron Logan. And if you notice like that, on that one all points bulletin, like that nose and like how that face looks just does not look anything like Richard Allen or even like Brad Holder. I mean, that face looks like a Ron Logan. Like if you look at Ron's kind of pointy, like how that nose kind of comes down, and if the girls walked by him where he was kind of walking, it looks like something you would sketch. Like I feel like Richard Allen would be sketched more like, I don't know, almost like a heavier set version of like a Stone Cold Steve Austin to me. Like could be very like, hey, head, little stocky, goatee, like kind of half oval eyes. It looked like a very easier face to describe. And same with Brad Holder. It just feels like the sketch would look a little bit, not saying it would look like identical to the individual, but it definitely wouldn't look like that one sketch to me. Okay, that's a dating app. Okay, Me Too is a dating app. Okay. All right, so I'm going to read the other stuff. Okay, this is Shelley Kline. Second sketch was Garrett Kitts, I think. Okay. All right, let's keep reading here. Kurtz. Okay, thank you. All right, let's keep reading. A review. Okay, so sorry, this I might reread here. I lost my space. A review of his phone found that hours after police released him the day they searched his home, February 25th. Okay, so they searched his home on February 25th, 2017. He had uninstalled and deleted his Snapchat and Instagram the following day. Meet Me was uninstalled and deleted. The browser search history had also been deleted the morning of the 27th before the phone was turned to authorities. Police. Oops, sorry. Hold on one second. I have. Okay, police have previously questioned Kline about whether his father had access to his phone or the account. Kline said he would not let his father have access to the phone for long periods of time. I'd be really curious if they took a polygraph test on Kline. Police believe Kowalski's teen modeling photos of police officer Vincent Kowalski were taken and used to catfish young girls. He said his photos had been used on fake social media accounts since 2014. You just search my name and there's fake accounts of me. Okay, wait, I'm going to search his name real quick. So Vincent Kowalski. So that, I guess that's, let me see real quick. Let's type in Vincent Kowalski. Jesus, that's him. Is that crazy? Oh, that's insane. Okay. You just search my name, there's hundreds of fake accounts. Okay, so let's go to the next thing about Keegan Kline here. We have a lot of his things where he reads Keegan Kline versus the state of Indiana. Let's see here. Oh, okay, criminal network. All right, let's see. Reby, let's just pull up a few of these. Ron Logan's a strong man. He had no problem. Oh, yeah, he had absolutely no problem walking up and down the hill. Ron Logan was a built guy. He beat the living hell out of his ex-girlfriend, and he also was up and down that backyard like it was nothing. Like it was really easy. Here's Dorian Gray. Good to see you, Dorian. I believe Libby also posted. I don't know if my internet's working slow. I believe Libby also posted online that day of Abby on the bridge. So online connections, but know where they are. Also Valentine's Day and Anthony Shots link. Let's see. And DP was bridge guy. If KK didn't kill the girls, that rabbit hole's trying to prove the KK was involved, so you get charged and go to prison. That is a winning strategy. Yep. Investigating his feeling does not involve feelings, but facts. Exactly. They gave this KK immunity. Okay, let's see. Let me minimize these screens. Let me read here. See if there's anything. Okay, Judge Mathis. Keegan Kline appeals the Miami Circuit Court sentence following his multiple felony convictions. Facts and history. On August 19, 2020, the state charged Kline with multiple felonies, and the state later amended the information and charged him with 1 count of level 5 felony child solicitation, 8 counts of level 5 felony child exploitation, 4 counts of level 5 felony possession of child porn, 7 counts of level 6 felony possession of child porn. God, this guy's just a sick individual. 2 counts of level 6 felony synthetic identity deception, so that must be like his BS Instagram stuff, and 3 counts of level 6 felony obstruction of justice. Kline pleaded guilty without a plea agreement on March 30th, 2023. During the plea hearing, the trial court took judicial notice of the probable cause affidavit, which is 32 pages long. The facts of Kline offenses are more and given the narrow scope of Kline's appeal, we need not detail them here. In short, among other things, Kline solicited sexually explicit videos. Okay, let's go down. This gets pretty gross. During the plea hearing, the trial court took judicial notice of the probable cause affidavit, which is 32 pages long. The facts of Kline's offenses are more than blah and given or abhorrent. And given the narrow scope of Kline's appeal, we need not detail them here. In short, among other things, Kline solicited sexually explicit videos from young girls when he knew their ages. He manipulated the girls and stalked them. He sought very young girls of specific age ranges. I can say this, masturbated to the videos he obtained and uncovered thousands and thousands of messages between Kline and young girls. Following the sentence hearing, the trial court found the following aggravators and mitigator: the harm, injury, loss of or damage suffered by the victims. All right, so this is just all the factors, all the counts. Now we're going to go to discussion and decision. Kline argues that a sentence is manifestly unreasonable, as the state points out that is no longer a valid argument on an appeal. Hold on, I'm just going through. This is a lot of just legal jargon. See if there's anything. Okay, that's not exactly. Hold on one second. Okay, let's see here. Okay, let me see if we can find anything else on Kline. Man associated with Delphi victims sentenced. A look back at Keegan Kline, FBI warrant, jailhouse confession, and a stunning revelation. The FBI's investigation into Keegan Kline, the suspect in the Delphi case, has been marred by a 3-year delay. Anthony seeks to withdraw from Keegan Kline case. Okay, I don't think there's anything else. Okay, what is this one? Okay, so this actual Delphi murders inside the crime. Let me just read this. We take a deep dive into two key figures in the case who were initially at the center of suspicion but never charged. Ron Logan, whose property the girls were found on, and Keegan Kline, an online predator who had been catfishing Libby and even planned to meet her the day she was murdered. See, that's where it just, and again, I if my life depended on it and I had to pick one suspect or pick out of the suspects, I would say Ron Logan. But like for him to even plan to meet her the day she was murdered, I can't wrap my head around that. And I understand, like, I definitely would weed him out because I 100% think it's Ron Logan. But if I had to add another suspect, there'd be something with this Keegan Kline. There's something to me because of the fact that he planned to meet her that day. Now, again, I don't know if this is 100% truthful, if this was actually on the documentation from law enforcement, because I know in like print and I know in a lot of different online, like, you know, from People magazine all the way to news documents, it says that. But I mean, I've never seen the exact time and date he planned to meet them on paperwork, and maybe it's available. Maybe I just haven't read the right transcript. But if that's the truth, the coincidence of planning to meet her the day she was murdered, I mean, what are the odds of that? Like, that's like winning the Powerball lottery, right? Like, you're planning on meeting someone the day someone was murdered. That at least puts you at number 2. So if I'm going through my top suspects, I got Ron Logan 1, I got Keegan Kline, at least from that statement, number 2, because he's catfishing, he's a child molester, and he wants to meet somebody. Then you have like the Brad Holder, you know, you have people pointing him and his son in Westfall, and like with the Florida fires, you have a lot of moving parts of that, but you have a lot of things that kind of point in his direction. But I would probably put it as number 3. That's my own personal belief. Okay, so let me just keep reading. Ron Logan, whose property the girls were found on, and Keegan Kline, an online predator who had been catfishing Libby and even planned to meet her the day she was murdered. Both men's connection to the case raised serious questions, yet the police eventually turned their attention elsewhere. Through gripping details and shocking revelations, we explored the mounting evidence that has led many to question whether the right man, Richard Allen, which I definitely don't think he's the killer, standing trial, or if the real killers remain at large, their involvement deliberately ignored with stories of Odinism cults, fake alibis, and coerced confessions. This is the episode that will leave you absolutely chilling. Okay, let me just read through it. Okay, this is just on replay. Okay, so we have this, which is absolutely crazy. Okay, so I was like, this dude's. Oh, sorry, I'm not bashing other creators. Sorry, I'm catching up with everybody's. Okay, so this is funny. I remember hearing Salisbury being on the trial. Okay, KK cannot be linked to BH. Yeah, so it's just another person, you know, that is suspect that I think isn't Ron Logan. You know, so okay, so let's go into who would everybody like to go into next. Does anybody have any more dirt on Keegan Kline, or do we feel that we've had enough info on him? Oh, wait, Dorian Gray. Were they lured there by KK, Anthony Shots, and Valentine's? Was Ron Logan connected through online activity? Who was the young sketch? Was it random? Ron Logan, the Keegan connection is too much. Exactly. Like, I do think there's something about that Young sketch. Okay, this is good stuff. Okay, so let's go now to 1 second here. I'm going to look up Delphi. Okay. So this is the thing that's always what's weird is they said stuff about Reese Davis failing a polygraph test, but when you read all of the evidence, Reese Davis, or according to like a lot of these documents, they say that he was never doing it for like a shorter term. There was nothing ever in it from him, is what a lot of these documents say from what I was reading. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Delphi, Indiana. In a motion filed late Friday, attorneys for convicted Delphi murder, I hate even saying that, for wrongly convicted Delphi murder Richard Allen asked Judge Fran Gall to force prosecutors Nicholas McLean to turn over any evidence he has related to inmate Reese Davis. He was found wrongfully guilty, murdering Abby Williams at Libby, German in February 2017. He received a 130-year sentence, which is crazy. Davis was at one time in the same cell block as Ron Logan. Logan owned the property where Abby and Libby's bodies were found and was at one time a suspect in the murders. It just blows my mind. He was May 2017 to tell them that Logan had confessed to a step-by-step killing of Abby and Libby. Okay, and Davis wrote and signed a statement in June, and I'll write this down, June of 2017, that read, Mr. Logan has made reference to killings in Delphi. He told me he was the one who had killed those girls, that it got out of hand. He walked with them in the woods to his property, and the girls wanted to turn back. He said something about walking the blank. He grabbed the youngest girl to reassure her it was okay. However, they panicked, and he also panicked. He indicated he ended up cutting the oldest one with a box cutter. He went on telling me that he killed both of them because it was going too far. The crazy thing is the News Nation lady who was on Ron Logan's property mentioned her talking about horses and about animals, and it like brought her chills to her, made the hair stand up on the back of her neck because of the fact that that's exactly what Ron Logan hinted at Reese Davis. Indiana State Police First Sergeant P. Hansard interviewed Davis on the same day he wrote that statement. However, Logan was arrested or charged with the murders. Logan died from COVID-19 in 2022. On Wednesday, one of Allen's defense attorneys, Andrew Baldwin, met with Davis at the Newcastle Correctional Facility. Baldwin said during his conversation with Davis, he learned that Logan confessed to Davis that he had killed Abby and Libby and two other people were involved. However, Logan never told Davis who the other two were. This starts getting crazy. Davis told Baldwin that in March 2024, Keegan Kline, another former suspect in the murders, was placed in the prison after being sentenced to 43 years after pleading guilty to 25 counts, including child, blah, 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 exploitation, solicitation, not blah, 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 but just, we keep saying the same thing. Identity theft, obstruction of justice, and possession of child porn. Kline had asked if his name ever got brought up during Davis and Logan's conversations. According to the filing, this led Davis to believe that Kline, too, may have been involved in the murders. Probably wasn't sure. Davis claimed that Kline eventually told him information that the details about the crime Logan gave him in the past. The motion argues some of Kline's details and the types of details that could only be known by someone involved in the killings. Davis asked Kline if Richard Allen was the third person allegedly to be part of the murders. Kline responded that Allen was not involved and nothing to do with the murders. So that's just more stuff saying Allen had absolutely no part of any of this. And now we're going to go shortly. According to Davis, Kline and Logan knew each other as they would share porn between burner phones. I don't know what this is about. Kline would assist Logan with these phones due to Logan having difficulty with electronics. Shortly thereafter, Davis told attorney Baldwin he had sent as many as 8 letters to prosecutor McLeland. Davis was under the assumption that McLeland shared these letters with Allen's defense team, but this proved not to be the case. During Wednesday's meeting, Davis told Baldwin that when the two originally met on March 27, 2024, Davis did not provide all the information he had on hand. Their initial meeting involved Baldwin receiving very limited information, and at the time, Davis encouraged Baldwin to watch a filmed interview between Davis and law enforcement that took place years prior. Davis said the reasons he did not give much information was because he did not have many details from Keegan Kline's alleged confession and was not certain whether Allen was involved in the murders. After his March 2024 meeting with Davis, Baldwin requested that McLeland and prosecutor Stacy Diner turn over Davis's recorded interview with law enforcement, in which Davis is alleged to have provided details on Ron Logan's confession. However, the motion states that the prosecution never provided any interview with Reese Davis, nor explained why it has not done so, nor stated, nor such a videotape exists. Baldwin said they have also never seen the letters Davis sent to McLeland, and also claims they did not know the letters existed until Baldwin met with Davis on Wednesday. Baldwin said the prosecutor has yet to confirm their existence, despite repeated emails. Libby German's grandparents open up about the Delphi trial. As such, Allen's defense team is requesting the following from the prosecution and law enforcement agencies. 1, to preserve any letters from Reese Davis in possession and to immediately turn them over to the defense. 2, to preserve any recordings of interviews with Reese Davis and those over to the defense. 3, to preserve all records and communications in any form about Reese Davis. The defense believes that if he had received Davis letters, it could have altered their strategy. They said they would have been able to use them to bolster their arguments for a third-party suspect defense, which Gull ultimately denied. Gull's a real problem. Baldwin said they could have incorporated them into their motion to correct errors. Prosecutor McLeland has yet to respond to the motion. This is crazy. Yeah, this is really weird. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay, I want to look up the News Nation article. I don't know if anybody heard with Ron Logan. Hold on. News Nation journalist. Okay, inmates as prosecutors ignored his letter. Delphi investigation, Ron Logan's ex. Okay, wait, Ron Logan's ex, we've seen that. Ron Logan's ex-girlfriend said she was a sex tool. Okay, we've heard that. Okay, let's see if we have any. Let's see. News Nation here. God, I wish I could share my screen. On Monday, we're going to be able to. Let me see. Here's from Shelley. I don't understand how Gull and McLeland can actually get away with such corruption. Exactly. Let's see. The interview. Second, this is moving. This is really delayed. I apologize. True CN, the interview he did with Sleuth was crazy. Ted, you should do reactions to That you should. Okay, is it Patrick Westphal interviews on sleuth intuition? Okay, one second. Let me look that up. I just think I'm getting a computer should be here by tomorrow. It's just really bad how slow this is moving. Patrick Westphal interview. Okay, I'm trying to find it. One second. Intuition. Let me see if I can even share my screen here in this StreamYard. One second. Let me see. Does this work? Present or invite? It actually says share screen, but I'm scared to because I know it'll like freeze up because when I'm talking right now, I'm looking at myself and it's like freezing. What is this? Crime Network, Patrick Westphal pretty much admits to it. Julian could clone phones and make locations appear. Okay, hold on. I'm going to look it up. Patrick Westphal. Oh, there we go. Okay, I think I got it. Just give me 1 second. Okay, 1 second, everyone. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to Sleuthy. This is from Sleuthy Goosey, courtesy Patrick Westphal interview transcript. Okay, let me see. Google Drive. Okay. All right. I'm going to read this to everybody. Let me just X out some of the screens. Thank you for the heads up, Criminal Network. I don't know if this just keeps showing up. Okay. I'm going to start reading. Okay. Patrick Westphal. I don't know if this is her interview. That's pretty impressive if it is. Okay, Patrick Westphal. I don't know. I might have to wait until morning, but the beginning of all this shit, when you said September, the beginning of August, I was contacted, asked. I'd be more than happy to come in and talk with some police, some state police, and all the investigators. And, I'm effing all about it. Sure, man. Went in and I talked to them for 3 hours and I turned around and went in the next week and went in and sat under a 4.5-hour polygraph, man, like them sons of, excuse my language, bitches, was asking me all of these wild ass questions that I couldn't understand the purpose behind it. It's like, man, you guys are asking some pretty off the wall questions from the first time that I spoke with the state. 1 second, I have somebody. 1 second. Should. Sorry about this. I'm just. Okay, sorry, guys. Pretty off the wall questions from the first time that I spoke with the state police and the FBI back when all this stuff first happened. I got kids in the same classroom. My daughter was in the same grade as these girls. I have 4 kids, and I had them all myself back then in Delphi. Sleuth intuition. Okay. Then Patrick says, so naturally they go into all the parents' houses that the kids in the same school, kids in the same grades, dozens and dozens of people they went and spoke to specifically on the fact alone, just the school stuff. This time they're going off the wall with shit. And I said, fine, I'll go in. You want DNA? Have some more. My DNA has been in the database since I went to my first tour in Iraq in 2016 or 2006. So here he is being pretty defensive. So I don't give a shit. It's already been there. So, all right. So when you have someone that's been defensive and has to say that, again, we're just trying to solve a murder, right? So you don't have to be all crazy about it. When, again, everyone has a different take, but for me, it's pretty simple, right? If I didn't kill anybody, do what you want, ask the question you need to do, take the DNA you want from me. There's no reason to be go back and forth, play tit for tat, play ping pong with these people and be pissed off, right? FBI, law enforcement, these people have jobs to do. They're just trying to clear you. I get it. Like if you're going to suspect me of a crime, I'm going to do whatever I can to give you the information you need to clear me. And I'm not going to be agitated by it. I'm not going to be grumpy. I want to assist. I want you to find the person who did that. And I want you to clear my name. So when anybody's defensive, to me, it's like a red flag. Okay. Let me just make sure everybody can hear me. Okay, great. Yes. Criminal Network has a wonderful blog you should read. And if you guys want to let everyone know what we're reading here, that would be very helpful. Okay. So she responds, I bet, or sleuth, intuition, responds, I bet. Patrick says, I don't get to choose what we do, where we go. That's a bunch of dirty ass politicians and shit like that. Then Sleuth says, well, if you want to use this opportunity now, Patrick says, fight. Sleuth says, I can go over some of the things during this call if you want to clear up just a handful of things. On the memorandum, they say you were cutting runes to go to participate in a sacrificial ritual. And then they have an image of you from Brad's, and then you're just cutting. Wouldn't you be doing that anyways? If you're practicing Norse paganism, isn't that something you would do? Oh, this is good stuff. Okay, so Patrick Westfall. Okay. Patrick Westfall, yeah. And I want to start off one thing, if I can, real quick. There isn't a son of a bitch out there that F's with a Satru that practices ASATRU, which, true to the Assyrian gods, there's 3 different levels. A pantheon, I guess, in the faith, there's the Assyrian god. The middle bracket is the Vanarian gods, and then your lower bracket at the bottom is the Roke gods. So a Satru just means true to the Assyrian god, and then you have another branch of this that's called Vanatru. He pronounces as Varnatru, which is people who are true to the Venerian gods. And then your Rokers, and those are your dark. I don't mess with the Rokertrus because I don't want to say it's the dark side, man, but Loki's the kid killer. He's the family destroyer. He is the trickster. I don't like people who hail Loki. I don't like people who, mess with the Rokutru, the Gila, the Loki. I apologize, everyone, if I'm sounding like a complete idiot while reading this. My first time reading this, question mark. It's not evil in a sense, but I just don't prefer those people. But people who mess with a Satru, when you get your first hammer to wear, a Christian wears a cross, Jews wear a star, Salute says, Patrick Westfall, you normally would make it yourself. Your first set of runes, they encourage you to make yourself. We were having a kindred meeting, a family group that comes together that, you've all sat and vetted each other. You sat around and hung out with each other, and, you get along. You got some of the same personality. Fritz, the bond, the, common ground, you call it Fritz. When you get a good kindred going, you'd hang out once a month. Every couple weeks you'd eat and you do your ceremonies, your symbols and your blots. And then Sleuth says, is that the video that Brad Holder had? Patrick Westfall says, it is. What's that? Sleuth says, well, they're saying that one of their exhibits is a ceremony that you and Brad were taking part in. Looks like a bunch of people got together from Facebook and we're getting together and we're practicing. Patrick Westfall then says, yeah, that was our kindred coming to meet at my house. And it was called Gunganir's tribe. Gunganir's the name of Odin's spear. Me and Brad were military. We were in Afghanistan together on my second tour, and then got and linked back up after I got out of the hospital years later, and we bumped into each other on social media. And then he started talking about how he went to practice Asatru because he wasn't seeing me do it on my deployment. And then she says, okay. Patrick then says, we would just got done with all of our stuff, eating ceremony. We went out and played at the park with all the kids and everything. You know, me and my old lady have 7 kids at the house, and he had his couple boys. It was time for activities, and the kids had went out and collected their own branch and then I was slicing it into discs for them. And then there was carving their own runes on the wooden discs. They made their own leather bags and popped holes in them and sewed them up, made their own little bag to keep their runes in and everything. It was just a kids' activity. And then Sleuth said, and they also, Patrick Westfall said, that's what was in that picture. Sleuth said, well, they also talk about, they lied about this. They said, at the crime scene of Abby and Libby, there were also 4 feet, or they're about 4 feet off the ground. Somebody rubbed in something that looked like a rune in the shape of an F, but here in this image that I'm looking at, I took a screenshot of that video, and you're a pretty tall guy, and you're reaching up also. So you're way above 4 feet, and they're trying to say that's exactly what you were doing is very similar to the crime scene. What is that you're doing on the tree? Patrick said, I've watched all your videos. I've even watched your video on that. Me at the tree. Sleuth said, yeah. Patrick said, the Pagan Pride Festival is Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's what that place was. Same day, every day, same location. Shola for Shiloh or whatever park in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We went there. There was a big symbol where everyone stands around the circle, and we pass a horn of mead around you and do certain shit. You know, that's all. At the end of the ceremony, I was leaving an offering for what you would call land whites and creatures of the area, and, you know, the trees and all that shit. I have a coin or a crystal or something I've had in my pocket and was trying to wedge that bastard into the tree bark. Sleuth said, gotcha. Patrick Westfall then says, I'm moving. You can see in the video I'm trying to move my hand around a little bit, trying to find a good gap to wedge the damn crystal or coin. As a matter of fact, I was planning on possibly on my next couple of days going to this park and seeing if I can't walk up and see if that damn thing is still up there. I was trying to get up super high. So just some everyday Joe, Patch, or Mike wasn't going to come by and be like, oh shit, I see something stuck in the tree to eye level. I'm going to go ahead and take that and stick it in my pocket. Sleuth. Yeah, it makes sense. Patrick then says, yeah, man, that's all that was. And there ain't no way, like when I heard about this whole blood rune on a tree, it's like, you know, it was the same height, you know, Patrick Westfall's touching this tree. And it was like 3 or 4 days before I actually, you know, saw your video on this and how you described the height of this blood mark, blood rune, whatever it was on the tree. And you're like, oh, well, it was like 4.5, 5 feet tall somewhere in there. And I'm like, there ain't no fucking way. I'm there in my head this whole time. There ain't no way somebody reached up. Sleuth said, well, that's Laffy Taffy, you know. Patrick then says 9 foot. Sleuth then says they see this image, the same one I'm looking at, and they're stretching the truth to make it kind of fit their narrative. But they also said that I think their name was Amber, it is Amber Holder. Patrick Westphal then says, yeah, I'm still going. So Patrick Westphal then I know Brad was married and went, and I know he was married. And at the end of our deployment, I'm not sure if Amber was his wife, or I'm not sure if Amber is the wife and mother of the kids. Or Sloot said, well, she mentioned in the Patrick Westphal, or if it was a new girl he started dating shortly after I told him to pack up and roll the hell out. Sleuth, yeah, apparently she took a lie detector test and he told her that you were responsible for the murders. That's what they put in the memorandum. Patrick Westphal, yeah, I don't know. I didn't know she taken a lie detector test. I know that she did not make that statement. Something about she was asking me, trying to find the information in the geese that one of the girls had supposedly had a date with me or some shit. Sleuth said, yeah, something weird, like they were recording the call or something. Patrick said, I've been trying to figure out if Amber is the one that Brad had his sons with, or if this was the new girl he met through. And then Sleuth said, no new girl. Then Patrick said, through somebody else? And then Sleuth said, new. It's the new girl. Then Patrick Westphal said, the new girl? Then Sleuth said, yeah, the wife isn't mentioned at all. Then Patrick said, well, then I can't comment or speculate about Amber. I was under the assumption it was the first woman he was married to then, because not trying to say this wrong way or, stroke my own ego, but that woman was going around and she was effing everybody that man knew behind his back, even people that were in Afghanistan with, just like absolutely demasculated that dude. Sue said, that's awful. And then Patrick said he couldn't turn his back without her going and crashing somebody he knew. And he brought her to my house one time, and that broad was just staring at me like the goddamn double cheeseburger, bud. And I was just like, Brad, you do not need to bring her back over here. I got my old ladies here, Bailey's here, and I was thinking in my head the reason that she was asking about me and Brad got all shit shows sideways was he was trying to keep her from coming to my house and cheat on him with another one of his buddies. So he was giving her the whole, oh, he's got powerful friends. Sleuth said, yeah. Patrick said, stay away, Sleuth said, well, she said something about a ritual. Patrick then stated, grind your bones and making bread. Sleuth said, you guys, like right around the time of the murders, there was a ritual that went wrong. And Brad said, I can't hang around with him. He's a dangerous guy. And it was right after like a ritual that had gone wrong. Like, it just doesn't seem even true. And then Patrick said that no, it didn't. The dash, when I told Brad to beat bricks, it was in my living room. Like, we didn't go out into the woods to do our stumbles or blots. We did this shit in my backyard right there in Delphi, right by Canal Park. Just a couple blocks away from the courthouse, the downtown, if you want to call it downtown Delphi, like 2 miles wide by 2 miles. Dude, it's like a rinky-dink little Amish town, basically. We did this shit in my backyard. We weren't going out and packing, 7 to 10 kids, and had a handful of adults out in some deep remote wilderness scene with creeps and all this shit, dude. It happened in my backyard. When I told Brad to beat the bricks, it was my living room in front of everybody. That's just the person I am. I'm not going to be all bashful and sidestep somebody and hem-haw around. If there's a problem, I'm fucking bringing it up to the surface. We're going to take care of it right here, right now. If we can't get past it, we get past it. If not, everybody's going to go their own ways. And if he picked up Asatru because of me while he was going through his divorce with his apparently the kid's mom is not Amber. Can't remember the broad's name. He was staying at his parents'. Salute said, okay. Excuse me. Then Patrick said, okay, wait, let me just put up the next person's comment. Okay, Patrick said his excuse is we had found out that he was going to church, Christian church, every weekend, and then he was coming to my house and playing a satru. Excuse me. And I'm not one of those half and half out guys either. I'm serious about this lifestyle. I love Asatru. And forgive me for saying Asatru. I don't even know how to pronounce it. That's who I am. It's who I've been for a long time. And I don't like the phony shit. And it's like, Brad, have you been going to church, dude? Oh, yeah, I'm going to church every Sunday. I was like, well, you're coming over here and you're, in my house with me doing a satcher, bud. You know what I mean? You don't do both, man. You need to pick one or the other. You gotta either be in or you'll be out. He's like, well, I guess I'm all out then. And that was the end of it. I said, well, grab anything you got in my house and beat the bricks, bro. He did, man. He left the book bag there, and I didn't even, remember what happened. The damn thing, but he never came back, for he refused to come and get any of this shit. I asked him numerous times, come get your shit, man. I got some stuff in my house. I ain't going to sit there and have that on my conscience, or you calling me a thief. So come get it and then be on your merry way. He would never have returned a phone call, never talk to me again. But that's what our falling out was. It wasn't a ceremony gone bad. It was he was out fucking playing Christian and a satcher at the same time, and I don't like it. Then Sleuth said, who's Elvis? Patrick said, I had to have my girlfriend get on Facebook because I don't have it and actually pull up a picture so I can see this dude. Salute said, so you have a connection with this guy? Patrick said, nobody that I ever met. Salute said, wow. Patrick said, huh? Salute said, so you have no connection with this guy, Elvis. Patrick said, never met the guy, never heard his name. I'm finding out through readings and listening to you and a couple other people I bumped into videos. This cat was down in Russellville, Rushville, whatever, around that shit, Brick, Johnny Messer. Johnny Messer was his old lady, Johnny Messner and his old lady was two of the wall humans, just absolute scummy sons of bitches. Salute said, really? And then Patrick said, Annie, fuck, what the hell is that broad's name? Johnny Metz, old lady, didn't like me. And another acquaintance that he had in Indianapolis because we all sat down in a Cracker Barrel one time or something, with that Vinlanders got together, the VSC, and we were doing something else. And we looked over and she started pulling out these pill bottles. And it's like, God damn, this bitch is about to have her pharmaceutical buffet right there at the table. Dude, I guess whatever, to each their own, as long as she, doesn't embarrass me or whatever, such each their own. These goddamn pill bottles had bed bugs in them, roly-polies, cockroaches and shit. And then finally realized what the hell's in those bottles, And she's like, oh, there are bugs in there. I laughed about it. And she's like, no, really? Look, she had like 3 or 4 different kinds of bugs in there. And I'm like, what the fuck? You have bugs in your purse? She's like, oh, well, go to the hotels. I'll dump bed bugs next to the bed so we go for free. Or I'll get a restaurant and we'll dump bugs on our plate and get food for free. And I was like, are you fucking serious? And then Sloot said, that's crazy. Okay. And then Patrick Westfield said, me and the other buddy, yeah, me and the other guy with the Vinlanders, we pulled Johnny to the side and took him outside. We were like, what the fuck are you doing, man? You can't be doing that outside with us. That's not how we hold ourselves. That's not how we stand as Vinlanders. That is so disgustingly dishonest and dirty, and just how low of a human being that's supposed to have pride and, some bit of truth about themselves. And then shortly late, we told him, don't ever bring her back around. And we told her at the same time, don't come back around. We don't need that shit. It's that disgusting. And that's just something lower than low. So she didn't like us at all from damn near the beginning. And then we found out that they were running around Rushville spending counterfeit 20s. Sleuthy Goosey said, oh, so they were con artists? Patrick Westfall said, before I drove my ass too, huh? Sleuthy said they were con artists. Okay, we'll keep going. Patrick Westfall said, yes, absolutely. And that falls back to that Loki and the shit, the trickster, the con artist, the kid killer, the brother killer. I don't like that. And I've always picked up those kind of vibes off him. He was just a shady son of a bitch. And you don't know until you hang around with someone long enough to pick up on it. Sometimes you're right. You get it right away. But other times it takes time. That's why the probate process and then hang around process with the club back in the day was so long. We're going to find out everything about you. We're going to run a background check on you. We're going to vet you through a private detective, and we're going to watch you for a minimum of 1.5 to 2 years before you know what to consider, brother. Sleuth said, so that's like a prospect. Patrick said, yeah, they fell quick. I got in my car myself. I drove all the way down to Rushville. And on the way, I'm telling her to pack up all this shit. I want anything that has club-related pictures on it, words on it, every single goddamn thing he's gotten while he's hung around in a probate. And I said, I'm pulling this patch. I'm coming to get all this shit. And I did. That was the end of Johnny Messner's time around me. But there never was a time there was an Elvis, Fields? Elvis Fields? Yeah, Sleuthy said Elvis Fields. Patrick Westwell said that dude never came around. We don't recruit. I know this report says, oh, we got out and prey on handicapped people and these weak-minded, Mongols society to do our bidding and shit. Finlanders don't recruit, bud. I'm going to make that clean and clear. You come to Vinlanders. We don't, we don't come to you, but dude, my patch has been retired for 4 to 5 years plus now. Easy, but when I was in the club, we didn't recruit, bud. You came to us. You show us you want to be part of this club, all that shit, and that was the end of it. There was no going out of recruiting. Every person I've ever known in the VSC -1, we're talking dudes over 6 foot, 200 pounds, smart, educated, fearless, drug-free, pro-American, and yes, that is a requirement for CS, drug-free. Then Sloot said, so where does all of the racism talk come from? Is this a racist organization? Westfall said, yeah, nationalist. Sloot said, nationalist? Okay, 1 second. Patrick Westfall said, yeah, people who want to see Americans buying American-made shit, not bubbling up all of our grain and our oil and our agriculture and shipping the shit overseas for bottom dollar, then turning around and buying the same shit from other countries at top dollar. We'd love to see, a tactile industry come back to America. So we're not, buying sweatshop, slave labor crap. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so now we, let's go through some of this stuff. Okay, we are going to keep reading. Patrick Westfall. It says in spring of 2018, issued number 164. I'm in the Vinlander shit. Yeah. On page 24, but this magazine has all the listed hate groups and the terrorist organizations that all this other shit basically anybody does not have. Um, 1 second, I got to respond to someone writing me. Okay. Okay, so we're going through the single patriot. So he's talking about like being part of all these. Okay, I'm trying to get down to the meat and potatoes of this. So Sleuthy Goosey said, well, in this memorandum, they say that the motivation would have something to do with one of the victim's mothers dating outside of her race. And that's where it kind of stems from. So they're putting race into it. And then Patrick Westfall says, yeah, I saw that. I heard you say that. And then Salute says, and then they also brought up Flora because you lived up the street from Flora. And if you're some racist son of a bitch, of course you did that too, right? And then Patrick said, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. When I lived in Flora is when I first moved out of Carroll County after I got out of Fort Knox Hospital, a quiet, slow place, cheaper, and lived out in Flora and Delphi because it's cheaper, man. It's way cheaper than Lafayette. Lafayette's where Purdue University at, it's expensive. The house I was living, there's 3 really big slumlords out in Carroll County, and 2 of them sit in the city council. So anytime a mention of housing inspector ever comes up in Carroll County, these 2 dudes shoot that shit down. And I mean, they shoot it down at so fast. So many slum properties, black mold, Latin insulation under floorboards, and just firebox haphazards and shit. It's bad, man. It really is. The house I was living in Flora, when they were first remodeling it, was a hole through a roof and a hole through the second level and snow on the living room floor when they started remodeling the house. Salute said, geez. And then Patrick said, the guy named Paul Ryder, I do believe he's one of these super slumlords, and he is on the city council. He stands behind the church as his, look at me. I'm a good person, but that's my opinion. So I found out there was black mold in his house, and I moved there with my oldest 2 children, and they were itty bitties back then. Salute said, yeah, you can get really sick from that. Patrick said, yeah, and I've already got bad lung problems from aluminum. My fucking God, aluminum exposure in my first tour, like I got aluminum poison in my lungs. So what causes that? Patrick said, I don't need black mold if I can stay away from it. So he says, what causes aluminum poisoning? Patrick said, I called. Okay, the area that I lived on in Iraq was right on the edge of Baghdad City. Saddam had multiple properties. His main property he had lived in full time was the grain zone. Yeah, we all know what that is. The big pellet smack dab ass in Baghdad. His hunting property turned into a huge military base called the Victory Liberty Compound. It was the 5 bases that basically all grew together in this massive complex damn near the size of Indianapolis. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's huge. There's Camp Liberty, Camp Victory, Stryker, Baghdad International Airport, and like a prison. They can't remember what the hell the name is. The base I lived on was Camp Liberty, and that area was sheltered so heavily during the invasion that when they're taking ground, when Americans was taking ground and fighting their way into the country, a bunch of bombing, casting vaporized this area. It was that real powdery sand, moon dust, that I just like to refer to it as stomp down and proof. This cloud rises up real slow and just keep rising the whole lot of aluminum mixture into this shit. And it really advised effects on handfuls of people out of, other handfuls of people that are over there, and just one of the lucky sons of bitches. And Salute said, wow, well, we appreciate your service and what you did. Thank you for that. Yeah, Patrick said, but I got us out of the house with that black mold in it and got us to into Delphi. But I mean, Flora is just as small as Delphi, so Yeah, I literally lived right around the corner from the house fire that the mother ran out of and left her four little girls to burn to death. So Lucy says, "Do you remember what happened?" Patrick says, That's what no one likes to talk about. The house, whatever happened, a fire got started inside their apartment. From what I understand, and the mother just got up and straight out of the goddamn house. She didn't get her kids. She didn't go back to get her kids. She ran straight out of the house as soon as she knew there was a fire. And we're talking a small area. It would take you seconds to scoop your kids and haul ass. She ran out of the house and stood there in the yard while the goddamn house burned and the little girls died there. Salute said, "Have you heard anything about that? What might have caused that? You hear anything like out on the street about it? Who might have did it?" Patrick said, "No. No, I mean, I was in Delphi at the time. I heard about the house fire. Then we saw the news about, or news reports about, what all the little girls went up in it. And I mean, it's sadder than shit, but it really was. I'm a parent. I got four kids. I get it. I don't know what the hell I would do if I lost one of my four, let alone all of them. But you best believe I'd come looking like a crispy swamp thing. Either I'm going to paradise, dying in the house fire, retrieving kids, or you know what I mean. I'm not going to stand there in the front yard and let all this shit go down. I've never heard there never was suspected arson and never was labeled as that, as far as I'm understanding. It was never labeled as arson or anything, but the fire started inside the home. Slew said, "Yeah, I believe there was an accelerant. Somebody dumped an accelerant and lit the house on fire." Patrick said, "Oh, well, then you know shit that I don't." Slew said, "Yeah, there's some private investigators that are that's what they're saying. I don't think it's part of the official record yet." "Oh, well, that's probably what I never heard then." Sue said, "One more question. What did you know about Richard Allen living in Delphi, running into the bars and shit like that?" And then Patrick Westphal said, "Nah, in Delphi was never really much of a bar scene. I've been a few times, and I'll be honest with you, I did my drinking at home. When they asked me about Allen, I thought that they were talking. I know some other Allens and that lived in Delphi. One of them died from an overdose a year ago. He had a brother, so I said, 'Oh, is he related to so-and-so?' And they're like, 'Well, no, 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 no. This is someone totally different.' And I never met the guy. I never seen the damn guy. They showed me his picture, and I went to speak to police." Sleuth said, "Oh, wait. They interviewed you? They interviewed you after they arrested Richard Allen?" Patrick Westphal said, My first my first interviews were at the very beginning of the whole thing back in like 2017. Then they brought me back into the beginning of August. I do believe it was at the beginning of August. And that's when they started asking me that all this crazy ass questions about how Asadru can be related to Satanism in any way. Is there any satanic rituals? And I'm like, oh, fuck no, dude. I gave them a rundown and told them, the guys, whatever, put that idea in your head. Shame on them. It ain't got shit to do with me. And then Sloot said, "So were there trying to connect Richard Allen to it in some way?" Patrick's like, "No, they never ever asking me if I knew them or ever had any interaction with them before. They never mentioned him. And any time during the interview where it was just mouth to mouth, or even when I sat through the 4.5 hour polygraph, they were asking a bunch of other questions during the polygraph." Sloot said, "So you must have passed." Patrick said, "Did you ever stab anyone? Did you ever organize anything? Do you ever personally know, assist, give car rides, to organize? I mean, every damn question in the world. I mean, like, I said everything from, did you personally take a knife and stab anybody? Did you organize anything? Did you know who did it? I mean, every single question I can think of, and 4.5 hours. Sleuth then said, well, they didn't mention it in the memorandum, so you must not have failed. Oh, that's why I'm trying to sue this shit. I guarantee you that the fucking attorney, he had to have known that about it. It was a month before the memorandum came out that I submitted DNA again. It's been on file since I went to Iraq. It's been on file since I got a felony back in the day, and then they took more DNA at the mouth-to-mouth interview beginning of August. Sleuth said, so they must have DNA. Patrick said 4 days later, actually, I came back for the polygraph. Sleuth said, well, yeah, they must have DNA then. Patrick said, And then we were all told from the beginning there was no DNA in this case. So when asked me for DNA, I'm like, so you guys did have DNA in the case. So otherwise you wouldn't be asking for the fucking mine. I said, that also begs the question, the hell you were doing with Richard Allen in jail. If you're still looking for other people's DNA, you must mean you have DNA in the case and didn't have a match. And that the kind of state cop kind of sat there and just stared at me. It's kind of funny. They're still asking for DNA and they got Richard in jail, which is absolutely crazy. Patrick Westphal, it's already in the database. If you want more of it, get your swab out and split all over the sumbitch. Put it there, little tube, stuck it in the envelope and disappear with it. So said, well, we don't know a whole lot about Richard Allen. What do you know about him just living in the same town? Patrick said, not a damn thing. So said, yeah, he seems like a private person. What's that? He seems like a private person. Patrick said, fucking tell you what, in a town as small as Delphi, people know a lot about people. Like, I wasn't a big social bug. I can't stand humans, to be honest. I don't like hanging out in crowds. I don't like having, bar scene shit, concerts and shit. I don't like being around so many different kinds of human beings, just too many personality clashes. I'm not the kind that's super tolerant of belligerent assholes, and they're rude and inconsiderate dicks, and apparently even 6'5", 250 pounds roughly. I must have the word bitch written on my forehead in pen marker that I can see in the spectrum of life, because people love to pitch me, dude. You'd be shocked at how many people, bro, you want to get it, and it's like, dude, just fucking sit down, kid. Sleuth laughed. Patrick said, really, man, just leave me alone. Sleuth said, well, since Patrick said, I'm not fucking breaking up into pieces just because you're trying to prove something to a girl. You don't go out as much, but still Delphi's small, man. You normally see everything in town at least once a week, going to the little grocery store, to the Dollar General they have, and a Walman's or a Save-A-Lot or something like that. Sleuth said, or CVS. Patrick Westphal, still see people constantly. Never saw the guy once. Sleuth said, no. Well, what do you have to say to your attorneys? Any attorneys that might want to listen to us talk right now? What do you want to say to them? Patrick then says, it's went all the way from my home life. I have 4 kids, only one of them out of school, but they're back to college. Many of these sons are still in school, and they've already been being harassed and fucked with. I haven't heard of any loud encounters out in the streets, but there's been people who approached my children already. So said, wow. Patrick said, I'm not super worried about my boys. They're all my size. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Sleuth said. Okay, Patrick Westphal said, and I raised them the way I am. But being harassed, my job, I've had entire shifts of people in my place of employment, was threatened to do walkouts and getting a hold of corporate because a pagan cult leader, Charles Manson type son of a bitch, is working there. like it is just harassment, mad phone calls. Just, I don't even really answer my phone anymore just because of, I mean, if I don't recognize a number, I'm sure the hell not answering it because it's going to be somebody that's got something sick to say. It's absolutely shit. It don't matter what I do, how I do it from here on out. When the lie detector test finally, they have to admit, oh yeah, I have this, but I had a big information dump. I didn't have a chance to look at it. It's horseshit. Sloot said that's big. Patch said I'm going to be known as the pagan cult leader killer in Delphi. Sloot said, yeah, because you're not on trial. You're not on trial. Patrick said, huh? Sloot said, you're not on trial, so all they have to do is make you look guilty. Patrick said, yeah, they have, and they have, and it will be that way forever. When documents come out years down the road, my names are going to be in it. And I'm going to keep going through all this shit over and over to be like, hey, you look, this is the situation. This lawyer just being a scummy human being in the process. I get the job. I have to do sleuth. Then says, no, they're going to write a book or something. Shit all over me. Says that they're going to go above and beyond. I'm pretty sure Richard Allen is getting ready to confess, and they're going to tell him, no, just let us do our job because they want to drag this out. They want to write a book. They want to make a movie. They want to do whatever they can. Patrick said, I agree. I ain't going to disagree with the 1%. Well, how can you get a hold of your attorneys? Patrick said, horribly. And now my son just filed seven new pieces of paper last end of the week. And he's going to explain how he, I guess, was aware that he was interviewed again, but never mentioned the damn polygraph or the DNA I submitted. Slow said, yep. Patrick said, but they even have my son listed in the court paperwork too. Now, for some reason, they're trying to question my oldest son at what point at time was 12 years old. Slow said, Jesus. Patrick said 12 years old, and just as I was walking out of my polygraph, they were already on the phone to my son, who's 18 now, asking him what he was doing back when he was back in those days. Were you in school? And he's like, school was in session. I was in school. Well, how do you know? How do you know you were in school? Like, I was 12 and my dad don't play games. It's time for school. You go to school and you keep your grades good and you keep your room clean. You know school's in where school, my dad doesn't play games, And he's like, look, call the goddamn school and ask if I was there. All they can tell you this was 6 years ago and I was 12. I don't know. Sue said, and they got your alibi, right? They mentioned that you were at home with your son. Patrick said, yeah, the FBI. I said they came to my house. They sat down with me at my table. They even made comments about the Vinlander shit. Like, I mean, I remembered definitely the whole, what's the rage stand for? What's the flag on the wall? And I'm like, God damn, I know who you guys are. And she laughed. Patrick then said, you guys know who I am. I know that big, thick folder on the bottom. There's a little dossier about me. Let's just cut the bullshit, get down to it, And they're like, fair enough. And we sat and talked about everything. They were in my house for over an hour. So I tried to tell these cops, dude, I've had my ass rocked in Afghanistan, Iraq. I've been knocked out. I've got a bad memory problems. I got nerve damage and shit. Like, it affects me pretty bad, man. I can remember what I have for breakfast most days. That's no bullshit. I'm not going to remember what I was doing 6 years ago. The FBI has a folder from an interview that they sat down at my table, my living room, and did it with me. If you guys want to refresh your brain caps, go get a piece of paper and read it. It's going to give you a better explanation of what I was doing than I could ever do now. There's no way I could ever know. I lived in Delphi. I knew that I had a red Ford Flex with a white roof, and I I had my 4 kids at the house. I was dating a girl who wound up becoming my wife, and I'm divorcing now. And then I can tell you about the day buds. And then Salute said, "So what are you looking to do? Are you going to try to sue Richard Allen defense team?" Patrick said, "Yes." And they said, "How could you?" Patrick said, "Absolutely. I'm going to go over everything, and I'd really like to see if the Odin report. I like to see what was in it, so I have an idea of just how twisted this dude was taking everything. Because if he's just being a parrot and he's just click past parroting shit from the Odin report, saying a memorandum that's not a whole lot that I can do, and I've found that out of so far, but it's just flat out twisting everything into a big spiral, then I can. But until that own report is able to be seen, I don't know." And that's the alibi. He pretty much, the one attorney I did talk to, he pretty makes sounded like he already made his mind up before he called me back that he wasn't going to be interested in this shit, because everything I said, well, but this and but that, and it's like, look, dude, you ain't interested in just fucking saying it. Get off the phone with me so I can move on to my next law firm. And then Sloot said, "Well, let's say there is an attorney that is interested in maybe taking it. You want them to email me and then send me your number, or?" And then Patrick said, "That's great. I'm currently going to be calling the Indiana Bar Association today. I'm going to get more detailed the defamation attorney, and I'm going to contact the Indiana University, Purdue University, blah, blah, blah. Fool me at the mouth, take my case for themselves." And Sleuth said, "Yeah, it was pretty dirty." Patrick said, "Yeah, I don't think it's going to be hard." Sleuth said, "Yeah, it was pretty dirty that they did." Just so before we end this, and hopefully we can do a follow-up, what did you say? Like a couple days maybe from now? Patrick said, "Shit, call me whenever you want, man. I ain't mad about it." So I said, "Okay." So I'll probably just edit the beginning of this, and then might go over it in a live stream today. So if you want to jump in the chat or whatever and hang out and answer some of the questions, that'd be cool. I'll probably just edit the beginning when we first jumped on the phone. But before we end the call, what have you heard? What about what might have happened out there in Delphi? Patrick said, "That's the question that ended the interview with the state police. I left them sons of bitches pissed. They asked the same question I told you guys don't want my opinion. They insisted, so I gave it. There's something absolutely down, dark, and dirty in the Carroll County, Indiana. Everyone that lives there knows it. Most people ain't got the balls to say it. I have for years, and that's what always puts me in the crosshairs. Nick McClelland hates my guts. The law enforcement out there hates my guts. I've had to go to the mayor's office, the previous mayor, and the former police chief's office and tell them, you guys goddamn cops that are constantly sitting across the street from my house watching, I'm getting the hell out of here. I don't care if you like me, dude. I'm telling you, it was a big ordeal, in my opinion, with the dirty, sideways shit that's going on in the police department. Nick McClelland is a dirty son of a bitch. He absolutely is the backdoor, scandalous, manipulative human being. He's got people sitting in the county jails on no bond, all what he's in their old lady's DM trying to get them. And I'm not kidding with you. And Stu said, wow. Patrick Westfall, he has family in the police department. He has family in the courthouse. McClelland's got a pretty good hold over this town. We've had a cop shortly around the time of this Abby and Libby incident that pulled over a couple girls in town saying something the lines of some sexual shit's going to go down if you guys want to get out of this ticket. Basically, one of the girls was recording. It was the cop was arrested on a Friday and had resigned by Monday. So he couldn't be charged with anything. That qualified immunity or shit that prosecutors and cops have covered this dude's ass, never made no big mainstream fuss or anything about it. We had a judge before Diner, and now, in my opinion, the guy was a good personality. He was a fair judge. He was calm, level-headed, and he kept Nick McLeland at bay with just excessive lust for a fucking going after people in the courtroom. Also, Curtis Fouts, Judge Fouts, had resigned because he just caught on a live stream in an escort's house. Yeah, I heard about that. Slew said. Patrick said, dude, get it how you want it. I ain't mad. If you want to go out and get your jollies off, man. Dude, like women, he liked getting it. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit there and be mad. I mean, he wasn't going out and doing nothing with underage girls or nothing as far as I know. But there was a disagreement going down between him and the girl's house that he was currently at. And he was basically in the lines of telling her something going to happen. And it's going to happen this way, or I'm going to get the boss involved. And the girl happened to be live streaming this shit and showed the judge walking back and forth in his underwear in the apartment or whatever. But Nick McLeland dives around Carroll County, and his front vanity plate is the boss. What? Sloot said. Patrick Westfield. There's a lot of dark, dirty crap. My opinion is somebody in the city council, somebody in the police courthouse, something in the circle, that group, the reason they ain't found who they've been looking for is because they're looking out and not in. That is somebody, their freaking circle, their freaking group. Sue said, do you know Dan Doolin? Patrick said, and then there's believed to be the reason that the cop killed himself in the park. Oh, yeah, I heard about that. Patrick said because of the cover-up that was going on. Yes, the reason everyone believes the reason that is the cop. Now, this ain't. I have factual evidence that the cop killed himself over the cover-up and couldn't deal with that. Sloot said, all right, before we get out of here, I'm out of time. Patrick said the state cop sat there and just stopped talking. Okay, let me double check really quick. Okay. Patrick said they're going to be who they're going to be. It's human nature to be always latch onto the deepest, darkest, ugliest information you can hold on to. It's human nature. I get it. But it doesn't mean that they're right. And it'll never make them right, no matter how angry and bitter they are about it, how much crap that they talk. People are going to talk, and assholes like me went overseas to make sure they got it right. And Sloot said, I appreciate it. And Patrick said, I enjoy it. Sloot said, everything you did, thank you for your service. I'll follow up with you. Like I said, we'll go ahead. We'll air this tonight. Patrick said, I'm not sure if I am all the way subscribed and joined in on anything, blah, blah, blah. And that is the end of that. Okay. What does everybody think about that? Does anybody want to hear anything about that? Jenny, what did Jenny say? Maybe the Bloodlust Diner was talking about how maybe you saw Nick and Holman were headed. Didn't want any part of it. Yeah, that's true. Please make sure everyone subscribes. If you could please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. Hold on one second. Okay, we'll look at that. Okay, everyone, we are done reading. I'm going to be on tomorrow night, and we'll be at our new studio, and we'll be able to go through a lot more fun stuff. I appreciate everybody watching. Everyone have a good night. And we're going to go over a lot more Ron Logan stuff and other things. Please hit the like button. Thank you so much for watching. And everyone have a wonderful night.